Good morning, everybody. This is Pt.3 here, doing my part 3 of my composting system. Saturday morning, and I'll just do a bit of a move around. You can see how my backyard's going. Bit of work in the garden. I harvest my kumara at the back here, and I'll be planting out my brassicas in there. I've got onions planted there. That cover there is to stop the birds eating up the seed, and I've planted some more rosemary on that side. We're trialing out some puddle pups. Got some more pups that I got from the big banana trees. So that there is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Is summertime we extract food out of the garden, so we need to have this ongoing mechanism where we are feeding the soil and putting good microorganisms and fungi and healthy soil back into, or healthy fertilizer. And so for the last 4 or 5 years, 4 years, I've had a bath. That is my worm farm. So I bought 1 kilogram of worms, tiger worms, and now that is full. And so that has been the tuapapa to the rest of my worms that I have around the place that you would have seen in the last 2 clips. I've got 20 smaller worm farms that I'm going, and the idea being is we take that material, worm castings, worm juice, and place it into fertilise our soil to bring it back. This time of year, coming out of autumn, moving into winter, around Matariki, is really about just putting things back into the soil, so compost from the back, which is also can be used as worm bedding. So you've got your compost systems, you've got your green waste which goes inside that one, and then I use my food waste like in here to go in my worm farm. So let's get back to it. This is section or series 3 or video 3 on my worm casting system that I'm using. You can pretty much use any container, but what I'm doing at the moment is I've got a system here that's been recycled from a whānau that are wanting some worms. So I started back on the 20th of April, and this is the worm composting system that I'm starting with. Other systems I have, like you'll see over by that banana tree, is another recycled worming system. With that one, unlike the one that's behind me where it's got a catchment for the water, for this one here, the floor has actually got grates in it, and it drops down into my water catchment bucket or rubbish bin, and by doing so, that water that's inside there that catches the rain, but also the worm juice, the wainuke, becomes ready to fertilise. So I don't actually have to dilute it. It's already happening. So same system. That one there's got a 3-tiered system. The first tier is where all the worms are and where I put my composting material, and it works as a similar process. But you could use rubbish bins. Just got to make sure rubbish bins, other containers. You could even use containers like this. But you got to make sure that if you are having it in a fixture like this, you need to put holes in it to allow aeration to go through, because they'll suffocate otherwise. So anyway, back to what we're doing. Here's what we're system. You would have seen on part 2 I talked about some sort of bedding that you want to use. You can use wood, carbon materials. So I've got newspaper clippings. I did this last night. We had a pile of newspaper and materials that cardboards. What else we got in here? We've got e-containers, fixtures, boxes that we've used. The worms love those. They'll just get in and munch all that up. And then there's the cardboard for the cartons. We've got our system, and as I mentioned, in this system, what we're going to be doing is the bottom, the black one, is where the water's getting caught. We've got a lid here, which is a filter, and in the bottom of where the worms are going to go, or the composting, my composting materials is going to go inside this green one. I also have another one you can put on top in due time, which I'll show you at the end. And then there's the lid to stop water coming in from externally. Now, at the base here, I'm putting in cardboard across here. That'll actually soak up the moisture out of here. But if I tip this straight into there, obviously it's going to fall through the holes, and you'll have a whole lot of worms and dirt in there, and that's not, you're really not wanting that to happen. So a couple of things you can do, like I've just done here, is you place in your cardboard. They will eventually eat this, but hopefully not before your system works to where you actually take the worms out of here and then use the material, the compost that you've got out of this, the worm castings, and fertilise your, you can fertilise your pot plants or your seedlings that you're using, or back into the garden. You can put a sprinkle around on top and dig it in. However, if it's slow and they do eat that down, then you can use a container, take out the worms, relay everything, and then put the worms back in until such time you're ready to go. With the second tier, that's exactly a copy of this one, you would, once they come up, they'll eventually migrate up into the next tier up, and all the worms will come up. There'll be still some in there. There'll be eggs, worms, cells still in this one, but most of your worms will be up in this box in a couple of months' time, and then you can use that. So what I am going to do is this, and yes, this is the last part. I talked about this one on the part 2, part E and part 3. So if you're wanting worms, we can get you some worms. We've got 3 different sizes we do. So just a reminder, when I started that lot, I only got 1 kilogram of this material. So I got that. And inside there it had worms, worm castings, worm cells, and raw material. This is my worm system. This one here is a 3 kilogram one. So I do 1 kilogram, 3 kilogram, and 6 kilograms, depending on the size of the container. Like at this one here, this could take 6 kilograms if I was going to use that, or something like a bath, for example. But you don't need a lot to start. Obviously, the more you have, the quicker the system starts eating up all your composting materials like this. I don't normally have onions. They tend to be the last thing they'll eat, but it breaks down. Okay, so let's do it. So you've purchased or you've sourced your worms, and you've got your materials, and you're wanting to get started. And so pretty much I'm just going to show you what I do and what you can do. Empty all this out. People might, so you actually, look at that, you've got a lot of materials. Let's put this on the inside here. Now I tend to use my hands. I know some people are a little bit health conscious and worried about that, but part of the garden experiences is that you're connecting to the whenua, you're connecting to the one. There's this DNA transmissions that go on, and there's something that happens inside our brains from a mental health perspective, that by us touching and physically touching the earth, there's a reset that happens. So I like touching. Yeah, I love it. I love touching it. I love touching our soil. But if you don't like it and you're a bit worried about it, then just get some gloves, and we put some gloves on. So yeah, there's our material. So this is actually quite a bit for this bin, but what I'm trying to do is I want to get this activated for the people I'm giving it to pretty quickly. Now I'm doing this in 3 parts. My compost material, my food waste, which is this one here. Actually, what I'll do is I'll do it this way first. I'll pick up my carbon, I drop my bedding, and this will, so I've got my bedding in here. I'm actually going to mix all this up, but what that will do is it'll soak up the moisture inside here. If it gets too wet, it gets a little bit funky, and that's why you add in your carbon. So we're just going to move this around, and the worms, as you can see, got all those worms. Plenty of them. Look at them all. It's about 200 worms in here. So yeah, we're just going to slowly mix this around. And they'll eat all that up, and at the same time, if there's too much moisture in there, all this brown material will soak up the juices, but the worms will go for it. Now, just on a little bit of a maintenance, and why we are adding in the worm castings and so forth into here, is if I just started out with, so let's say carbon, here's the one way of cleaning my hands. If I just start out with my paper and my food waste, there's actually no organisms or microorganisms in here or in the food waste that'll actually generate my compost system. I need inoculators, and that's what this does. This is active. Because we've already spent a couple of months creating this material, you've got, this is live with the system that's going on in there. There's food already in there that they're still munching away on, that we added in, and the microorganisms are breaking that food down, and then the worms are eating those microorganisms and those foods that are being broken down, and then the worms poop them out. So yeah, so you do need that now. So you can use mulched, torn up newspaper, cardboard, nothing shiny or anything like that, or plastics. They don't like that. You can also use as a starting bed composting, which I'll actually quickly just walk over here. We've got composting on this side that I do when I'm making up my worm farms. So we've got a composting little system in here, and I'm continually moving that around, and so you can use that as starter. You may have to, if it's like mine, you may have to sift it because you've got big raw material, big sticks in there, and those are a bit too much for the worm composting system, but you can use that as your starting bed. And I'll just quickly show you while we're here, get sidetracked. And here's all we've got some under here. So once a week I'll go through them, sift them out, rotate it. What I'm doing is I'm checking for, so this is pretty much what you do, maybe once a week you put your food scraps in. So this is, I'll actually show you how I do it. I'm going to open up a little channel, and I just add my food scraps into the channel like this. Ideally what I would do in this situation, but because I'm delivering it today, I would normally not put my food scraps in. I'd let it sit for a week, because they've got enough food already inside the introduced worm composting system, and they've also now got cardboard, so they would actually start eating that already. So tea bags, lettuce, bit of onion, fruit, leaves in here. If you've got too much of your green waste, you can chuck them inside your freezer, store it, and then break it up into bits. I'm going to leave some of that, but that's enough. And then if you have fruit and you start getting fruit flies, just cover it. Put a bit of covering on top, like that. Yeah, I'll just clean my hands here. That's pretty much it. So once a week, store up your food, penny like this. Look through it. What you want to do is a bit of a grab test. Grab material and see how there's water coming out and it's holding together right. So that's perfect. That's at the right moisture, the right temperature for the worms, and that's pretty good. The other thing I haven't added in here, because I know I've already got it, but I crush up my egg shells, and so you can see the white bits inside there. There are egg shells, and then I'll put a sprinkle in. So next week, if I was feeding this, that's one thing I'd add in within this within my systems, and I do that with my other worm farms, is I'll add in a little cup, half a cup of eggshells, and just mix it in with the food that's there. But this is plenty for them to munch away, and they're all ready to go. And eventually, if I can lift this up, if it's not too heavy, eventually all the juice will go down into there. So there's your system. Now on my systems, I actually put down plastic and cardboard on here, and I will probably do that. I'll show you, because I need to make it up. I forgot to make it, but I'll put down some plastic like my other ones. There's plastic and cardboard, and that just kind of covers it, keeps things tight together, and then we put a lid on top, stop the excess moist water getting in. But that's the system. And now we're going to drop this off today. This whānau they'll be receiving the worms in their composting system that they can do themselves, and they can watch this video how to do it, and how to maintain it. And so there you go, that's what you got. So if you're wanting worms, hook us up, email us at beeslife3@gmail.com. You can give us an order. In the description I've got the different sizes we do. There's other things that products that we could do as well. Again, it's subject to availability, because it does take a little bit of a time for us to create these composting systems. So you could just do what we've done here. You could have either 1 kilogram, 3 kilograms, or 6 kilograms, and depending on the size the material's got, you've got obviously it's a little bit more dearer or cheaper depending on which way you go. But this one, you're pretty much all going. like if I got 6, this would be half full, meaning that you don't have as much to go. You're quite a long way ahead or advanced in the system. They'll eat up the food a lot quicker. You'd have nearly 500 worms with the 6 kilograms side of space. But yeah, so you can also get worm castings. That's where these are sieved and the worms are taken out, and then you've just got the castings. So we can do that for you, or some worm juice. Now, let's just say it's next week, and I'm just going to take these away, kind of mimic. I'm coming back now. Go right. Had a week here, been nosy. I've probably looked at it once a day just to have a look. Oh, what's going on under there? Which I tend to do. But let's say this time Saturday morning next week, we've got a bit of food supply that we've stored. That we may put it in the freezer, but we've got it sitting there. So I'll come over and open it up. I'll have my plastic in here and my cardboard sitting on top, just to keep everything in place. And so I'm having a look. You'll probably see this broken down a lot more. You're checking for moisture. In most cases, particularly if you've got the plastic here, you might see the worms up top because they eat at the top end of the materials. But you're looking for, is there activity? Can you see the worms doing their thing? Are you seeing the food broken down? So you might actually peel this back, like go down, peel it back and have a look underneath, because you'll see the worms eating up the clay that's in there. In fact, I'll show you what it might look like now by going and have a look. So I'm looking for moisture. I'm looking for, does it smell like dirt? I'm looking for worms. I'm trying to keep a balance between my carbon and organic materials and my worm farm. I don't want to have, if it's too much of this stuff, it can get too moist, and if it's too much of this stuff, it gets too dry. So you're wanting to have that kind of balance where if I did a squeeze test and there's enough water holding coming out and it holds together, then you're in the perfect kind of scenario. But depending on how fast they're eating, obviously if you've got more worms in them, they'll go through it a bit quicker. So yeah, depending on what the state looks like, you would either add in more food material of either of those two. Your carbon, your browns, there could be brown leaves at this time of year. Could be other compost that you're using, but you're putting in a mixture of those two. And then you put your plastic back on top and your lid, and it looks like that. But that's ready to be delivered. So I'll be delivering them today for the whānau, plus the other lid, the other component that goes on top. All right. So, but let's go and have a look. I'll just go and show you. So this is a backyard gardens, Kaitaki Marakai backyard gardens. So everything is pretty raw in that sense. We've got activities. So here's the other part. I'll show you this first. So if you're, for example, like this is now we're doing the 7 days, and if you think of this as what we just did outside, here's my cardboard, and I'm doing my inspection, lift up the plastics, and then you see how you see all these worms all come to the top. Now this has been going for a couple of months, and so what I do here is this is a great example of what we're looking for. So I'm just digging around. So here's the food that I did last week, and see how the worms are active around the paper and the materials. See that? They're active. But notice how it's broken down, and you've got this lovely rich composting materials, worm castings. So there's a bit of, I put in this one, it was a bit too moist, so I put in some coconut materials, but you got plenty of worms. See how now it's most of it's worm castings. There's lots of activity going on here. So this is what I do to aerate it. I'm just aerating the worm systems. You see the white eggshells have been eaten, so they're pretty much, yep. So I'll just leave that under there, but they just, look at that, yeah, beautiful. So we've got 150 worms in here, nearly 200. We'll see if I can find a worm cell. It's a bit hard to see. Plenty of worms. Not yet. I can't quite see. This is probably a younger one. But that is what you're looking for. So this is a month old, this particular one. They've eaten down some of the food, and they're looking pretty good. Looks healthy. Worm poop is happening. Composting is breaking down. So there's a difference between what we saw earlier, and this is an example of I've got bubble wrapped plastic I put on top, and then my little bit of cardboard. So I'm going to make up one for the whānau that wants one, and that we've prepared earlier on this video. But that's what we got, and yeah, right. That's my worm casters system and worm composting system. Here's some more worm containers. Haven't got cardboard on this one, but there you go. Look at that. Beautiful. Doing what they need to do. And this is the other container, which they could just store it at the moment. They don't need to put it on top. It's only once the larger one gets bigger that they would put that on top like that. And once this is up, move the worms, move up to here, start the whole process again. And that's what it would look like. So for just storage, you might want to do that, but they don't need to. If you're going to do that, you'd switch the lids around. You'd put that lid on top of this one and just switch it around. See the difference? Yeah. Anyway, that's the worm composting system that we've got. Starter worms that we've added to this box. We've added cardboard, which is your carbon. We've added food waste to give them food. The worm system, composting system that we've got, inoculates all this other material, and already we can see that see how it's starting to, the moisture is starting to get into the paper. So eventually the moisture and the microorganisms will start eating or start hanging around on this material, and the worms love it. It's like sugar to them, so they'll come and eat it up, and then poop it out, which is what this brown stuff is, the worm castings. And then you got your own little system, and it's just a matter of feeding it and checking it on a regular basis. Once a week is fine. Feeding it twice a week, that's how we want to do it. But what it does, it means that your food and your paper doesn't get chucked into the rubbish, and so you could actually halve your materials that are going to the tip by just putting food aside that we make scraps, and you've got your own system. and then you can actually start adding that to your pot plants. You can make a mix out of it, you can add sand, you can add other potting mix together, but what you have here is, once this is moving, you've got a high feeding capability. Worm castings, worm juice, and you can add it to these other pot plants or herb gardens or larger gardens like what we've got. Alright then, thanks for watching. If you've stayed on for this long, yeah, really appreciate it. This is Rewa Takahu from Kaikoe, Kaitaki Marakai Backyard Gardens, thinking about huapare kore, te ao tūroa, and our imprint and the footprint that we have, and how we can better help advance the nutritional health of our soil and the microorganisms and the fungi and the worms that are in there, and in order that when we come to plant in springtime, we're going to have nice healthy soil, and therefore healthy plants. Click the like button, click the share button. We're on Facebook as well, on our Kaitaki Marakai page. We sometimes chuck them onto our Waiatua page, and also our business page, which is Takahu Consultancy. You can see things on there in regards to how you might want to purchase some worms or worm castings or worm juice to help us in our backyard. Alright then, hey kona, God bless.